Hi, everyone. What kind of talk is it today? I think it's a brunch talk.
Brunch,
Yeah, it feels like a
obvious,
brunch talk. Not a
obviously.
dinner talk doesn't have a ring to it at all. Lunch
Well,
talk, no. It's brunch
dinner
talk.
is more formal, right? I feel
Right.
like brunch is where you dish, where you like really
Mm.
lay it out there, especially we do like a girlfriend's brunch. I would love to observe like a guy's brunch.
Me too. Me too. How do we infiltrate that? Well, how about you all let us know if you go on regular dude brunches? What happens
Yeah,
at these brunches? We like to know. Because, as soon as we join, it's a different
it's a
dynamic.
different one.
You
You
got
gotta
to
just
tell
record
us.
it, be creepy, send it
Yeah.
in.
But hopefully at it doesn't matter what kind of brunches you're at, you are hopefully talking about dating, love, relationships, human connection, and maybe our question for this episode, which is what do you do when you're feeling behind in your love life?
And for more context, at 27, I feel behind in dating. It wasn't until my quarter life crisis that I ever even started dating. I'm also very rejection avoidant due to earlier experiences in my life. How do I build confidence to start dating at this age? I'm terrified of dating apps. Do I just rip the band aid off and get started?
Mm. It's so relative whether you feel on par, behind, ahead. It's so relative to everyone's individual experiences. And I will put it in perspective. I have a friend who was married very young, right after college, and she was married for 20 years and then divorced and had to start over. And while she was married and had kids, everyone was like, "Oh, you're so ahead." you know, you got life figured out. You're so ahead. You found a marriage that works and you have a family now. And now that she feels like she's quote unquote starting over, she feels extremely behind because she's like, I've never been on an app. I
Yeah.
don't know what it's like to date as an adult. I think that puts it all in perspective. It's
Hmm.
so relative to your own experience. And you shouldn't have to compare with anybody else's timeline.
This is something we get over and over again, of like, I don't have enough relationship history or I
Yeah.
haven't dated enough. And what is like the right amount? Like, ultimately, you just need to find one person that you vibe with, pending you
Hmm.
are monogamous and that's what you want. But even if you're not, like, you might need to find a couple people. Like, it doesn't matter what the past is. I truly believe that, like, the relationship that I have, like, for instance, with my partner, it doesn't matter what our pasts were because like it's a unique relationship
Right.
with each other. Of course, like there are relational skills and dating confidence and all that. That's totally valid. First of all, at 27, you are not too young. I feel like I didn't really start dating to around the same too. I think that's actually very, very normal in today's world. That a lot of us like put dating on the back burner because of just building our careers or education. Like this is something that we see over and over again, and people all have the same response like, oh, I don't have enough experience. I didn't do enough. But what better day to start? Today. There you go.
Today.
So, yeah, rip that band aid off.
And then you're probably already, even though you're not dating or had the experience of dating, listening to this podcast
Yeah.
already adds to your dating experience. Listening about other people's experiences and all these expert takes, that already adds to your repertoire of dating. I think it's how you spend the story. Julie and I
Hmm.
recently spoke to someone who was in the same boat,
Yep.
and we realized she opened every date with, I don't have much dating
Yeah.
experience. Well,
Yeah.
if you open a date with that, then yeah, it puts you in that box. Oh, she hasn't had much dating experience. But if you spin it in a way that's, oh,
Yeah.
I had other priorities in my life, but now I'm really prioritizing my love life and finding a partner, that's different. That's different than
Totally.
saying, I have no experience dating.
Right. I think ultimately it comes down to relational skills. That's the
Yeah.
most important thing. If you've been dating for 20 years and you have no relational skills, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You are no better dater than someone that is just starting. So I think the fact that, yeah, you're here at this podcast, that's a great first step. But also think about like the relationships that you have in your life with friends and family and how you relate to others and how you can strengthen some of that and go on dates. Like this is a great
Yeah.
time. I think everyone has to come to dating with like where they're at and what's good for them, like whether they serial date or they, take it a little slower and really try to hone in on finding that one person. But I think, especially if you don't have a lot of experience, it's always great to just meet a variety of people where it's low stakes, where
Yeah.
it's just a meet and greet. You're just trying to meet them. That takes the rejection out a little. Just trying to see what works for you because you are curious. You are just trying to understand dating and yourself. That's all there is to it. So meet people, have fun, or try to have fun with it and don't get too in your head about, the rejection side. I know easier said than done, but I think that this is actually like a really good opportunity and definitely not too late.
Mm-mm. Not too late. And you can also be honest with the people that you're dating too. It doesn't sound like you're looking for a commitment at this
Yeah,
time. You're in an experimental phase. It's important to be upfront with that when you're dating. And then people really respect you for communicating that. I'm just in a phase in my life where I just want to get to know as many people as possible, or I really
yeah.
want to get myself out there and exploring the dating world. Say that. Don't be under the guise of I'm looking for something serious. I'm looking for my person.
Right. I know like people talk a lot of shit about dating apps and how terrible they are and how difficult they are, but I actually think they are a great tool, especially for this purpose,
Hmm.
because like in a past life when they didn't exist, it was a lot harder to just get out and meet people. Like even for me, I was using, it wasn't even dating apps, this was pre-Tinder, but I just remember even using Match.com. And it
Hmm.
was like the first time in my like adult life that I went on actual dates. Like up until then, it was like, people I met at parties or out at
Yeah.
bars. It was just very casual. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, I'm like actually on a drink date, on a dinner date. Like this is fun.
Yeah.
This is what dating is. So like if you can take dating apps for that and see the benefit opposed to just like, oh, it's so painful to like find a good person out there. Like you choose what story you're going to listen to.
Ooh, you just got me really excited for this listener. This is like such a fun
Yeah.
phase. You get to explore, you get to meet all kinds of different people, you get to try all kinds of different ways of dating, and some of them may be weird, some of them will push you out of your comfort zone. And that's when you will find more about yourself. I think this is like the best stage of dating when you're dating purely for dating. It's
Yes.
like, oh, no pressure.
100%. I know,
Just have
pressure-free
fun.
dating.
Oh,
Yeah,
so great.
you should be our next resident dater.
Yeah, come volunteer.
Okay, well, I do want to get to the part around rejection and just
Mhm.
being scared because don't want to diminish that because that is a real part of dating. But before we do, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. Rejection, the R word. Well, if you've been listening for a while, we love the saying rejection is just redirection. And if you're in the phase that we're talking about being curious, about just seeing what works for you, then it's not rejection. So it's all
Mhm.
about like how do you think about it? And again, don't want to diminish. Of course, it's painful when someone says like I don't want to see you again and you're like, "Oh, I really thought we had a great time." But it's all part of like the growing and learning that comes from dating. So if you can view it like that, like it's only making room for the right person eventually,
Yes.
and I'm using this time to learn. And when I get quote unquote rejected, it's like, clearing it out for me, then that's like it's less about you at that point. It's not like something's fundamentally wrong with you. It's more of
Mhm.
like, how can this be part of the process?
Right. Rejection is just a word. If you see it as rejection, yeah, you'll take it personally. But if you see it as information,
Yeah.
wow, all of a sudden you're like, I'm equipped with some new information. And if you dare, which we dare all listeners to do, ask for feedback.
Yes.
If you find that someone is not aligned with you after a date, ask them, like, is there any feedback you can give me? I'm really experimenting and getting to know myself in the dating space. I would love to learn more about what you thought of me, or, was there anything I did that was interesting to you, or anything that was memorable about me? Like, ask for feedback. That is like, nobody does that, but obviously, I mean, for those of you who've been with us for a while, we had a whole show about it called
Yeah.
Exit Interview, all about feedback from people you've been out with. So yeah, use this newfound energy and openness and curiosity to get some feedback.
Not saying to like listen to Exit Interview to like feel better about yourself because other people get rejected too. But I'm kind of saying that
Yeah.
because I feel like when I was in the thick of dating, and this was before Dateable, before any podcast really, it all felt so like, oh my God, I'm the only one where this is
Yeah.
happening too. I felt like alone. Like I felt like there's something flawed with me that I can't make it to the third date with someone. No one else is going through this. And
Mhm.
then, of course, we realized that everyone was going through
Everyone.
this. So I think by hearing other people's stories too, it makes it less personal because it
Mhm.
shows that it's not a fundamental flaw with you. It's just the reality of dating in a world where there's hundreds of people you can be dating at any second.
I know. I know. And ultimately, dating, yes, like dating is for romance and finding your person. But when you're in this space of connecting and dating as an experiment in some ways, just think about your intention is just to leave the other person better than before
Yeah.
you met them. That's it. Make the interaction great. Bring your A game in terms of like being your most authentic self, and then making that person feel good after you leave them. That's like the best thing we can do as humans right
Right.
now, is connecting on this positive level and leaving people feeling good.
And I think with everything in life, you could always think about what could go wrong.
Yeah.
You know, how could I get rejected? How could this dating app be terrible? Like all of that. But what if you think about what could go right? I could
Yeah.
have fun in the process. I could get to know myself better. I could get to know others better. I can learn what works for me, what doesn't. I can go on some freaking awesome dates and just enjoy the
Yes.
moment, like the flurries and the fun of just like connecting and that first kiss and all the like fun part of dating we somehow forget about.
I know. Dating is so much fun. Most restaurants and bars were designed for dates, if you think about it. So
Yeah.
the world is catering to you right now. Take advantage and go out there and explore all the different places you can go to and do all the things that you want to do. Right?
Yeah.
That's like the perfect time to just have a good fucking time.
Yeah. You'll miss it eventually. And I'm not saying this like I don't want to be with my partner. I'm not saying that, but I do miss that night that you're just like, what's going to happen tonight? I have
Yes.
no idea.
Yes.
Like, is the person I meet going to be like my next love? Or is it going to be like a funny story I tell my friends? Like, what is going to
Yes.
happen? It's just
Yes.
more excitement in your life.
It is.
I don't have any excitement in my life
Oh,
anymore.
stop. Oh, stop. We'll do that. We'll save this for another brunch talk. But I was just listening to someone asking the same question. Like, how do I bring like the first date excitement back into my relationship? And I was with Matthew Hussey, and he said,
Okay.
observe your partner talking to someone else, not flirting, just like
Okay.
talking to a stranger at a party or event, and it will bring you back to the time when you didn't know them and you're just observing them.
Okay.
I was like, oh,
I
that's kind
like
of fun.
that. I like
Yeah,
that.
that's a good idea. We'll save that for another
Yes.
topic. But
Side note.
see, like
Enjoy it.
wherever you're at right now, there is someone else wishing they could be in that stage too. Everybody wants that excitement back, or that
Yeah.
novelty of dating back. And when you've been dating forever and you've gone on a million dates, it's hard to have that novelty and excitement
Yeah.
back. So really think of it as a privilege of
It's
where
a
you are
gift.
today.
Yeah, and it's a lot to give someone too of not feeling jaded and not feeling worn down by dating.
Yeah.
Like you almost have like this like naiveness that's coming through. That's
Oh,
like
it's so great to
very
be naive.
endearing. I know.
It
I'm
is
like,
so great.
oh, I want to go back to 27-year-old Julie. So much fun.
I know, 27. Oh, 27 was a really good age
It was a
too.
good age because you're
Oh,
really like starting to come into your own, I feel like.
yep.
It's like a big growth area. So use this as growth, enjoy yourself. You're not starting too late. Don't worry about
No,
that.
and nobody's start, even if you're listening to this and you're like 57, you're not starting too late
No.
either. No one's ever too late. It's just that you just got to start today.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's owning your story. Ultimately, that's all that
Yeah.
matters, anyways.
Yeah. Love
Okay.
this question. Thanks for your vulnerability and thanks for the rating and review with this
Yes.
question. If you want to get your questions answered right away, give us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. It really does do us a favor and it helps with our overall perception of our podcast. It's the reviews,
Yeah.
when we get new listeners in, the first thing they do is read the reviews. So if you leave us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts, in the body of the review, you can ask a question there. We'll bump up your question to the front of the line. Other ways to ask this question is by emailing us, hello@dateablepodcast.com. You can also just email us to say hi. You don't have to email us with the question. We love hearing from you. Or you can DM us on Instagram @dateablepodcast. That's where you can find us. Or if you run into us, you can ask us a question there, but I can't guarantee that we'll remember. That's all.
And, you could also leave us a review even if you don't have a question, just for the
Oh,
heck of
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Right.
That's
Just
always
leave a review.
something that can happen. But also, Spotify, if you're a Spotify listener, feel free to just give us the rating, shoot us an email, let us know because you can't actually physically leave a review there. So we'll honor system. We trust you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you all next week.